Hi everyone, it's Mrs. Manganello. I'm here in the library and I'm here to tell you about South Brunswick Reads for this year. Now, many of you have been in the district with us for a number of years, may know about South Brunswick Reads. Each year, the librarians work with the public library to choose a book, a series of books, or a theme connected to reading. And our theme this year relates right to our district theme, which is silver linings. So our books this year are going to be books that inspire you to either look for or find your silver lining in all of the craziness that has happened over the past year. So we're going to start off with our Silver Linings video. I am on our SB Reads Google site, which I will share the address with you. But this is our intro. So let me explain, or let the video explain what South Brunswick Reads is all about this year. "2020 has proved to be a year for the record books, with many of our traditions canceled or rescheduled. Our public and school librarians are pleased to continue our cooperation on South Brunswick Reads. Since 2011, we have traveled the Yellow Brick Road, fallen down a rabbit hole, and visited fairy tale kingdoms. We've admired those who show grit and determination, our bridge builders, and the role of science and technology in our world. We've read across our town, our country, and our globe to better understand our place in the world. Last year, we challenged readers to ignite their passions and embrace the future. This year, despite all of our challenges, the students, staff, and families of South Brunswick have worked hard to find silver linings. With this in mind, we are proud to announce that one tradition will not be canceled due to COVID-19. Our schools will continue to partner with the South Brunswick Public Library. Join our public and school librarians to look for a personal bright spot as we read for silver linings, proving that while we are forced to physically stay apart, our community can stay strong by sharing the silver linings we find inside great books. Together we will share books with characters who face challenges with grit and determination, explore new worlds beyond our current limits, inspire readers to immerse themselves in a great book. Remember, there's always a silver lining. Find yours in the pages of a good book. For more information on how to participate, book recommendations, and community events, visit our website. Okay, so that's our South Brunswick Reads theme for the year. And you might be thinking, well, I have some books in mind, but I'm not quite sure what might work. So if you're stuck and you're not sure which direction to go in, you could try a reading recommendation, and there's a link here. I'm going to give you a little bit of background on some of the books that I put on this list so that you have an idea of what a silver lining might look like for your own choices. So for silver linings, pretty much any book can be a silver lining. It's about you as a reader finding what is meaningful to you in that particular story. So the first one on my list is by Elizabeth Acevedo, and it is available both as a print book in the library and on Mac and Via as both an audiobook and an ebook. This is the story of Amani. I love Amani because she's such a strong character. She has obstacles, she has difficulties like we all do, but she definitely finds through a series of really difficult steps a silver lining for herself. Now, Amani's gift is the ability that she can just make food that everybody wants to eat, and they kind of make their families have a stronger connection to each other. And she wants to kind of channel that into being a professional chef. But she's not sure she's going to be able to because her opportunities are limited. She has a baby daughter at home, even though she's a senior in high school, and she has to put her needs first. So will she get the opportunity? Does she have it in her to do the hard work that's going to be required of her if she wants to be a professional cook? With the Fire on High by Elizabeth Acevedo. You may know some of her work, which is novel and verse. This is a straight up novel, and it's just a great story. You'll love her voice in this. Second one on my list is called Far from the Tree. And Far from the Tree is a story of 3 different perspectives on adoption. We meet Grace as she's headed home from the hospital, having just given her daughter up for adoption. It's a really difficult choice for Grace because Grace actually was adopted herself as a baby, and now she's letting her daughter follow her down that same path. Now, Grace has never met her birth family, and this decision makes her want to meet that family for the first time. She ends up connecting with her half-sister Maya and her half-brother Joaquim. Joaquim has been in foster care since he was an infant, never found a family. Maya was adopted into a family, but that family, while it seems great from the outside, may be more challenging than it looks. This is about what it means to be a family, and the silver lining for me was the journey. As these 3 characters kind of try to find the mother that they're not all sure they want to connect with, the journey where they get to know each other is the silver lining in this book. This is a National Book Award winner, and I don't always agree with the choices that they make, but in this case, I definitely agree. The next one is nonfiction. So if you're the kind of person that really likes to read a nonfiction book, you could try Laughing at My Nightmare. Laughing at My Nightmare is by Shane Burkaw, who you see on the front cover of the book. He has a spine condition, which means that his physical ability to navigate the world is a challenge. But what he presents here is his own coming to terms with that, and having only ever been in a wheelchair and able to kind of navigate the world with help. He has a really funny, tongue-in-cheek way of explaining his life. And silver linings might look different for you or me, and that's okay. And his silver lining is definitely going to look different than the one that we may be learning or living through, but it doesn't mean it's not worth looking at. Next one on my list, so we went nonfiction. Let's do a graphic novel. For those of you that like a graphic novel, the reason that I like these is because look at the size of this thing, but it reads really quickly. Now, parts of it are told in comic format, parts of it are more full-page illustrations, but the story is what I love. And what I really loved was the front cover says, there's a quote from Jared Krasaka, who's a graphic novelist, comic artist of his own. He says, "This book will save lives." And that kind of drew me in. This is the story of Aiden. Aiden is entering 9th grade, so he's going to be a new 9th grader in his local public high school. He's transferring in from a private school, so all new friends, all new opportunities. But this is the summer before, and he's at Boy Scout camp, where he's gone for years. But at Boy Scout camp, he's starting to feel that sense of dread that you get when you're starting in a new school. And he also doesn't feel like he's connecting with the boys that are at camp this summer. He feels like an outsider. He feels like he's different. He makes a choice that will make you gasp and wonder if this is the end of the story. But sometimes when you experience the darkest day that you've ever had, you can find your silver lining, and that silver lining will lead you out of that darkness. That's the case for Flamer. So if you think you might like that, that's a great choice. Jennifer Connelly, Stepsister. This is probably my favorite book of the last few years, and I read a lot, so that's saying something. This is not your Disney fairy tale. This is the story of a stepsister, and this is the Cinderella stepsister. Isabel, we meet her as she is about to cut off her toes at the direction of her mother because she has to fit her foot into the glass slipper. The prince is waiting in the other room. She wants to follow her mother's directions, so she does it, only to find out that he figures out pretty quickly that Cinderella is who she is, and Isabel is left with her mother as the laughingstock of her town. The neighbors hate her, the town hates her, everybody hates her. But inside Isabel there's more to her than just that ugly stepsister. So when a fairy queen offers her an opportunity to have one wish fulfilled, she's sure that everything is going to be better if she just wishes to be pretty. But she starts to realize that there's more to being alive than just the way you look, and maybe that wish needs to be pointed in a different direction. So sometimes even the most unlikely heroes can be a silver lining for people. So let's skip through. We have We Were the Lucky Ones, which is a great story. It's based on an actual family. 3 generations of the Kirk family were living in Poland at the start of World War II. They were a Jewish family who all of the adult children have a different experience navigating World War II. Some of them end up in concentration camps. Some of them escape overseas. Some of them are just desperate to make contact with their family that they think they've lost. But the story is really powerful because of all of the Jews in Poland, so many were eradicated by the Nazis. This family managed to stay intact, and it's a real success story. So if you think that silver lining might interest you, that's a great choice. Now, I talked about a graphic novel. Comics are a little different. I always say comics are more, and I'm going to show you a page. Comics are more that traditional where the characters have the thought bubbles and the book is really driven by, in this case, the story of Batgirl. But it's a different story than we all know from the movies and the other cartoons that may be out there. In this case, instead of being the daughter of Commissioner Gordon, Batgirl is actually the daughter of a Gotham supervillain, and she's been trained to be an assassin, but she starts to realize that her father was not the best influence, and there must be more to life. So sometimes you find your true family once you realize that your family that you have is so broken that you need to step away from them, and that's the case for Batgirl. Let's see. Oh, Alatsui. Alatsui it's written by a Native American author, which I really liked. Darcy Little Badger is the name of the author. One of the reasons I love this book, I'm going to read a little bit to you. Imagine an America very similar to your own. It's got homework, best friends, and pistachio ice cream. But in this America, there are some real differences. There are magic and there are monsters, both indigenous magic and monsters, and magic from every tradition across the globe. So imagine if those legends and myths from around the world were actually real and people knew that. The powers that people had were actually real, and that was a reality as well. That's the case for Ellie. Ellie, whose actual full name is Alatsui. Ellie comes from a long line of the Lipan Apache people, and her family's special talent is that they can communicate with the dead. She actually has a spirit dog that was her dog in real life, and once he had passed on, she called him back to her, and he's now been her pet for 17 years. 12 of them alive and 5 of them as he now is in his ghost state. What I like about this book, and the silver lining for me, was that in most YA novels, you notice the parents are gone. Like, think of Harry Potter. There's no adults in those books because they wouldn't allow the children to do the things that they might need to do. In this case, Ellie has a very supportive family that recognize her power and recognizes what's happening and her role in those things, and they support her. So I really thought that was a great silver lining in a lot of YA literature that's just not there. Now, Becoming by Michelle Obama. I listened to this as an audiobook. Fantastic read. You can get it from the library. You can get it as an audiobook. If you get it as an audiobook, it's like a long conversation with Mrs. Obama, which I found really, really inspiring. But definitely talks about her life growing up in Chicago, how she became a lawyer, how she became the first lady, and kind of her reluctance to take that public role. So I found this to be a really inspirational silver lining in a dark time, to take a step out of your own life and to look at someone else's who's been successful is a great silver lining. We've got some more here. Opposite of Always. Opposite of Always is a great story that's basically like, we just passed Groundhog's Day. And if you don't know the movie Groundhog's Day, it's one of my favorites because it's that Bill Murray's character is stuck in one particular day, and he just has to keep doing it over and over and over again until he gets everything right. That's kind of the case for Jack and Kate. Jack and Kate meet at a college party. He's a high school senior. She's a college freshman. And they meet, they fall in love. They begin this beautiful relationship, and then Kate dies. And Jack immediately is sucked back to the beginning of their relationship. And he does it again. And he thinks to himself, if I get everything right, Kate will live. Maybe that's true and maybe it's not, but in this case, the journey is part of the silver lining. He will keep repeating those events, trying to make amends for what's happened, and he may or may not be able to do it. Nick Stone, great author. She wrote Dear Martin, Dear Justice, which just came out, other great stories, but I really like this one. Sort of a Cinderella story in a sense. Rico is working at a convenience store. She sells a lottery ticket, which is $1 million winner on Christmas Eve. She knows that she didn't buy the ticket, and she suspects that the woman who was so kind as to give her a ticket for the drawing as a Christmas present may hold the winning ticket. She has Zan to help her. He's a wealthy classmate who she's never really connected with, but he has great computer hacking skills, so she kind of drags him along into this journey. And the two of them begin to get to know each other in a way that they hadn't, even though they'd been in school together for a number of years. The relationship here is the silver lining for me. Their friendship that might grow into more, and it might not, depending on what Rico wants, is truly the silver lining of Jackpot. So there are lots of choices here, and those are just a few. So I hope I've given you some ideas for books that might inspire you. This is not an exhaustive list. This is just a sampling of some of the great books that you might choose. Now, I want you to keep in mind that in addition to our reading recommendations, there's a few different ways you can participate in our silver linings for this year. One of them is to create a reading recommendation, and we do that with Flipgrid. So Flipgrid, and you'll see the link down here. If you click on this link, we're going to take you to a Silver Linings Flipgrid, and there's a simple question there. We want you to speak about a book that was a silver lining for you, that allowed you to get past some darkness this year and find some positivity and be able to make a new connection with something that you've read. It could be something that you think would inspire someone else or help someone else. It could be just a great story that you want to share because you found that that was a great way for you to disconnect from what was happening around you. I'd love it if you would put in your Flipgrid so that we can grow a library of recommendations here. That's our goal, to create a place where people can go and kind of browse and look and see what other people have read and enjoyed and get an idea of what they might like. So you can absolutely create your Flipgrid here. You can also, for those artistic souls among you, you can enter your artwork. The artwork contest is connected to our District Reads theme. And you find specifics for the contest here on our posted page. There's also a Google form that you submit your work through. And you'll notice that we have the contest wide open here. We want you to do something that speaks to silver linings. Now that could be literal. Maybe you want to give me a visual representation of a silver lining, what it looks like to you. It could be completely abstract. It could be a work you created during this past year that helped you to find the silver lining with art. Whatever works for you will work for this contest. We're hoping to get lots of submissions, and the winning contest entries will be put on the district website for all to see and enjoy. So that's the short, in a nutshell, summation of what Silver Linings South Brunswick Reads is this year. And I hope you will find a way to connect by reading a great book, sharing one on our Flipgrid, or entering our art contest this year. If you have any questions, I will post the website for this page to your Google Classroom. If you have any questions, you can always email me at lisa.manganello@sbschools.org or find me in the library. Good luck and happy reading.